So again, this is approximately about where we had left off, I think. Okay. And for some reason, when this content gets copied from Microsoft Word into Microsoft PowerPoint, for some reason, it puts those gaps in there. I don't know why, it just does. Okay. So we have to have ways of moving things into and out of the cell. Otherwise, it can result in cellular death. And we talked about that with high concentrations of salt water or sodium. So we'll show you an example of that on behind the board here in just a moment. And for something like this up here, okay, you get to be nominated to be, I wouldn't say picked on, but drawn out a lot, right? Okay, so you can handle this. I'm picking on you. I'm just telling you I'm picking on you. Okay, so the advent of multicellularity, where did that take place first in the animal kingdom? Multicellularity. What type of animal? Sponges. That's right. So when we start applying some of these concepts that you learn now, we'll come full circle and you apply these in upper level science classes to a greater depth. The reason being is even though sponges are puriferans, they don't have a high metabolism, but any substance to make any organism in order to make energy needs two things. What might they be? Humans are no exception. In order to have a high metabolism, you need two things. That's pretty easily compensated with the blood, but it's not wrong, totally wrong, but it's not totally right either. Okay, nutrients is one. Well, that's a type of nutrient. I think I got to stand a little closer up to here because I don't have the microphone on because I think that's not working. So that's why we're standing up here. So you said sugar. What's the type of nutrients? What else might humans or animals need for their metabolism? We talked about this as far as ATP is concerned, and the body's more efficient because we said maybe we measured it in liters. Oxygen. So oxygen is the other. So organisms need lots of oxygen and lots of nutrients if it's a high metabolism. Although sponges, their metabolism probably isn't very high. Why is that? True. Do they move? No, they don't move, so there's no muscles for them to actually have to draw that type of energy. Okay. So then, for instance, we'll just talk about basketball, for instance. In a basketball practice, okay, for some, maybe there's a type of coaches meeting. Okay, that's our example. Okay, so the coaches are taking part in a meeting. I don't know, with Mr. Deitch, the athletic director, for some reason or another. So typically, we would say maybe the seniors are in charge of running that practice. So what that means is they facilitate that. Okay, so we're not leaving that to the underclassmen, we're leaving that to the upperclassmen. So something that facilitates something is what we call the leader of that. That's what we mean by facilitating. Okay. And what do we see? What might the difference be between those two, whether it's diffusion or facilitated diffusion? Well, that's true, but the molecules themselves, what might the difference be? What does it say at this top point here? Right, because this is really, really simple substances like blood gases. So as we breathe, what are two gases we're talking about with blood gases? Maybe we talked about one of them already. Oxygen is a blood gas. No, we don't run on hydrogen. But what do we? No, what do we exhale? Carbon dioxide. Those blood gases, they're really, really simple and they're really, really small. So these materials move in and out really, really easily because the nature of the size is just so small. These, however, maybe proteins, could be triglycerides, could be sugars. Some of these molecules are just too big to enter through diffusion only. So that's why you have little channels that open up. Those are the facilitators, allows the substances to move in. We understand the difference between diffusion and facilitated diffusion. Okay? So then, would you, this is just a total guess, but I think you can get that right. Would this require energy? You'd be correct when you say no, but why would that be correct? Because how's the movement taking place? Yeah, it's a concentration gradient, which means it's moving down, or you could go the other way. Say it's going down this way or going down that way. It does not require energy because it's moving downhill. Okay? All right. A third type of movement, this is your salt water that we talked about. See, it's at this point you're going to put a little humor into this, right? We're soaking this up like a first, and that's fine. You can just say, sure, yes, sure. Yeah. Isn't that right? So you get it. We're going to apply this here in just a moment. Does everyone have this content that wants it? Because we don't want you to be able to describe this. And that's what's on the board behind us. I don't trip over the cord first.
Take confidence in you, bro. Me? Yeah.
Finish. Okay. Got this one going wrong. Okay.
You don't know how to what? Well, look at my garbage here.
Okay. Okay, last one, I think. Yep. Other than this telling you that this requires energy, can you possibly say or interpret why this takes energy? Other than just, we're telling you it takes energy, but that doesn't explain why it does. By interpreting this, what is it telling you right here? Is it going to be pumped uphill? Would we pump anything downhill? But you could, but it's not going to require energy because you're going downhill. But if it's pumped uphill, that requires energy. And that's why active transport sticks out amongst the other three. 25% of these, or 1 out of 4, is one that takes energy. The other 3 do not. Okay. Okay. You're still writing. That's fine. Okay. So, with what we just talked about, we want you to be able to interpret these, which will say that this one's number 1, this one's number 2, this one's number 3, this one's number 4. Okay. Which movement is number 1? Is it facilitated diffusion, active transport, diffusion, or osmosis? So the reason we say interpret this is look to see what's actually moving across this cellular membrane. That's the clue. So number 1 is possibly which movement? Again, what are we moving? Here's your clue. Not diffusion. It's not facilitated diffusion. But why? You're right. But why are you right? Because you're moving water. Okay. Not only just water, but look to see what's happening here. We said if you take in large amounts of sodium or salt, so this salt is building up in your bloodstream. There's high concentration, we'll just say sodium. It's sodium chloride, but we'll just say sodium. If it's higher outside than what it is inside, what's that going to do? Is the sodium going to flow in? If it's high outside and low inside, would that flow in? Yes. If this is high inside and low outside, what's going to happen? What's the water going to do? It's going to move out. So if this, in this condition, if all this water is flowing out of there, what's going to happen to this cell? It's losing water, it's losing water, it's losing water. And then eventually what's going to die? What's going to happen? It's going to die. I let that kind of slip out of my mouth. It's going to die. Okay, so as you said, osmosis. Okay? Just go in order? Yeah, we'll just go in order. What might number 2 be? We heard one answer, facilitated diffusion. Is that it?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say too.
Well, I didn't tell you whether it was right or wrong. How would you realize that it's wrong?
I think that's right.
Say that again. Now I heard it. It's diffusion. That's right. Now, is this going to? It really doesn't matter what we're talking about as substances are concerned. For oxygen, as we breathe in, the oxygen's going up. Okay, is that going to take energy to come into the cell? For oxygen to come into the cell? No, why not? You're correct. Because the concentration gradient is higher outside than it is inside. So this oxygen will diffuse in here really, really simple. I don't know what we're doing here, gentlemen. Just a little cooperation, okay? Okay. So what can you tell me about the carbon dioxide now? That doesn't just stay inside the cell. Yeah, it's going to move out because the concentration gradient, and you two all right over here? Just a little cooperation. All right. Carbon dioxide diffuses out then. That is simple diffusion. Because from last year in physical science, does anyone remember what glucose would look like? Now, I know it's sugar, but that doesn't tell me what it looks like. So that's the key. You could draw it out. Okay? So what we mean by that is, if you really wanted to be specific, okay? Okay, you had all these oxygens and hydrogens on here. These are just simple molecules, oxygen and carbon dioxide. Glucose, however, is a fairly large molecule at a cellular scale. So again, we know this is for C6H12, the also O6. So with all these atoms, these are just too large to enter the cell alone. It doesn't take any energy, but it's moving from high to low. So since it's doing that, it doesn't require energy. It needs to be facilitated. So we call that facilitated diffusion. Okay? So then we'll just abbreviate that. Okay? So then by default then, what is number 4? It's called active transport because now this is why. The sodium gradient outside this nerve cell is pretty low. Okay? So does it take any energy to go from high to low? The answer to that is no. Okay? So once we remove these sodium ions, and now they're on the outside, so if those sodium ions need to get back inside, is the concentration higher on the outside or the inside? Just by a simple glance at this. It's higher on the outside, lower on the inside. So will diffusion alone allow that to come back across? No. Because what did we say that is true with active transport? Movements are going up a concentration gradient. Okay? So that requires energy. So this is the only one that needs energy. Okay? Any questions over these 4 movements? Going once. And maybe you don't know what to ask. Going twice. Okay, so, all right. Is there anything else you'd like to add? Oh, that makes it simpler. That makes it simpler. I didn't hear what anybody's saying. I just said that makes it simpler. Oh, now someone said it. Oh, because they were talking at the same time I was. See how distracting that can be? But, all right. Okay, also before I forget, remember we watched a video about the truth about fat, and we wrote questions down about that. Okay? So we asked you to write those down. Some of you did. So make sure you look at those too. So we have these two bonus questions. One says, in which U.S. state did the company Harley Davidson originate? It was blank. Well, you got 50 choices. It wasn't South Dakota. Now you're down to 49. It wasn't Alaska or Hawaii because it was part of the lower 48. So we already eliminated 3 for you. Okay? And then the number 6.022 times 10 to the 23rd power is known as the constant blank or this number. Chemistry students can help you with that if you choose to reach out to them. I can't tell you that. There's some of them, this is used more than once. That's why I say I can't tell you that. Okay, that's all I have. We will catch up to you next time.